Snowcloak and Double Team can destroy any run of Pokemon Platinum, and that's why I had to use Hoot Hoot to beat the 7 gym leader. That's because I'm doing a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Platinum where I can only use unevolved Pokemon. A hardcore Nuzlocke is the most popular way to challenge yourself in a Pokemon game, and I took it a step further by banning evolutions and single stage Pokemon. The rule set for a hardcore Nuzlocke is displayed on the screen and you can pause the video to read it in full. Additionally, I'm not using powerful unevolved Pokemon like Scyther, Tangela, Gligar, and Sneasel because even though they would technically be legal by my rule set, they would make the game too easy. Pokemon Platinum is a surprisingly difficult game to LittleLocke in. While it's true that you get access to powerful items like Choice Specs, the enemies are also a lot harder. In particular, boss fights and Elite Four members often have really good movesets. In the Elite Four, there are very few useless Pokemon that you can take advantage of. This is unlike Pokemon Emerald, where most Elite Four members start with a bad Pokemon. There's also generally fewer good Pokemon available, like Staryu and Voltorb, which are missing from the Sinnoh region. Overall, a Platinum LittleLocke is definitely an interesting challenge. We pick Piplup as our starter Pokemon, but truthfully, Piplup is not very good. The reason we pick Piplup is to make late game rival fights easier. If we pick Piplup, then our rival has Turtwig, which becomes Torterra, which is straightforward to beat with any ice type move. In general, most of my decisions are focused on the late game, where the pain of having unevolved Pokemon will be most felt. My Pokemon will always be much weaker and slower, and I have to take every advantage I can get. We get Bidoof and then Starly. Intimidate Shinx would have been better, but it's not a big deal overall. Then, I fish for a Magikarp in Twinleaf Town, get Wurmple in Route 204, and a Psyduck in Ravaged Path. The first rival fight is easy, and we sweep him with a rollout Bidoof. Then, we catch Geodude in Orberg Gate, Zubat in Orberg Mine, and Ponyta in Route 207. Ponyta is likely to be one of the most important Pokemon in the run, and I was actually unlikely to get it here. If I didn't get it here, there are techniques to guarantee getting it somewhere else, but I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now we're ready for the first gym leader who is supposed to be easy. Most rock-type gyms are traditionally simple because their point is to teach kids about type advantages and that you shouldn't just use tackle versus everything. But Roark has Cranidos, which is extremely scary. Cranidos has a high attack stat and can flinch with Headbutt. Most regular strategies have to risk a high-powered critical hit or a flinch. To add insult to injury, Geodude learns Magnitude 1 level after the level cap, the self-imposed maximum to start a battle. To beat Roark while playing around the crit and flinch, we have to use a technique known as edging. And no, it's not that edging. We lead with Geodude and Rock Polish on his Geodude to be able to outspeed Cranidos and avoid the flinch. Then, we slowly beat down the Geodude with Rock Smash. We are level 14 at the start of the battle, but we've gained enough EXP beforehand to time it so that we level up after beating Geodude. We learn Magnitude just in time for Cranidos to come in. Now, with the Rock Polish to avoid the Headbutt flinch, Magnitude Geodude can beat the Cranidos one-on-one and we get the toughest first gym badge ever. In Valley Windworks we get Drifloon, whose ability is unfortunately not Unburden. Unburden is an amazing ability, and if it had Unburden, it would definitely be on the Elite Four team. There is no way to manipulate Unburden on Drifloon, and it's a true coin flip to see if you get it or not. Unfortunate, but not the end of the world. Then we get Shellos in Route 205, but we delay the Eterna Forest encounter by using Repel. If I wait until after the Old Chateau, I can get a Ghastly there because that's the only unevolved Pokemon I can get over there. By delaying the encounter in the forest, I can get 2 Pokemon instead of potentially only 1. Eterna Forest Pokemon and Ghastly instead of Ghastly and nothing. Now it's time for the most important Pokemon in the run, Bronzor. I can guarantee to catch Bronzor in Wayward Cave if I catch an Onix beforehand. But the only guaranteed place to catch Onix itself is on Iron Island, which is relatively late in the game. Bronzor is an incredible Pokemon and an Elite Four Pokemon, and I want it as soon as I can. But it's ultimately down to luck if I can get it in the early game. We first search for Bronzor in Route 211, where we can use a strategy called Repel Manipulation to increase the odds of getting a Bronzor. By repelling with the level 16 Pokemon, we can guarantee to never get a Pokemon lower than level 16, meaning the only options are Chingling and Bronzor. Unfortunately, here we get a Chingling. Fortunately, in the next place we search, Mount Coronet, we are lucky enough to get the coveted Bronzor, and we don't have to delay getting it until after Iron Island. Now we're up against Gardenia, and we have Ponyta, which is basically a counter team. If things go horribly unlucky, we are prepared with Pluck Zubat as a backup plan. It matches up well against grass types and can eat Roserade's Citrus Berry. In the end though, we have pretty neutral luck, and Ponyta cleans up the second gym leader. I use the Taunt TM on Bidoof and head to the old chateau to catch Ghastly. Ghastly can knock itself out with Curse, so I have to use Taunt first. Then, with Ghastly caught, we backtrack to Eterna Forest and catch Baniri with a Repel manipulation strategy. But at this moment, we have the first challenging fight, Jupiter and her Skuntank. Skuntank is both strong and fast, and if that's not bad enough, it also has Night Slash, which has a high critical hit ratio. Furthermore, it has the ability Stench, which gives every attack a 10% chance to flinch. Skuntank is every Nuzlocker's worst nightmare. In theory, Skuntank can flinch every Pokemon, so we have to beat it with the two Pokemon that can outspeed it, Ponyta and Baniri. I beat the first Pokemon handily and also use it as a chance to get up Stealth Rock. Versus Skuntank, first we go to Drifloon and sacrifice it for aftermath damage. Then we go to Ponyta and use Tail Whip because we outspeed and will never die to a Night Slash critical hit. The reason I have to Tail Whip is because if I damage it directly, it would trigger its Citrus Berry. Then I sacrifice Chingling to bring in Baniri. With the support of Stealth Rock, Aftermath, and Tail Whip, Baniri is able to knock out Skuntank and we defeat Jupiter. I didn't use Rock Polish Geodude strategies here because Magnitude does variable damage and is overall unreliable. Geodude is a potential Elite 4 Pokemon, so I would gladly sacrifice two Pokemon instead of risking it versus Skuntank. We now have access to a lot of new encounters. I get the Togepi egg, which I don't hatch yet, Machop, Onix, Badoo, and the Eevee in Hearthome City. Now we have Fantina, and it's the first time we're gonna have to play some games with the AI. The AI in Generation 4 is complicated, to say the least. If you want a full explanation of why the AI does what it does, check out this video. It's a video I use to understand the Gen 4 AI. Miss Magius can destroy most of my Pokemon without even thinking about it. My strategy is to create a situation where Miss Magius comes in on a Ghastly who has a substitute. Then I can use Curse to stall it out. But how do you give Ghastly a substitute when it's fighting a Ghost-type team? The answer is easy, but the execution is tricky. I use Ponyta to beat the lead Duskull, but I have to be very careful in how I do it. Two Flame Wheels would knock out Duskull, but instead I use Tail Whip twice and then knock it out with one Flame Wheel. This is because if I Flame Wheeled one time and accidentally burnt the Duskull, that changes the AI's understanding of the game. If Ponyta knocks out a burnt Duskull, Miss Magius would come in now instead of Haunter. Again, check out the video for why, but believe it or not, the burn on Duskull affects the calculations between Haunter's Shadow Claw and Miss Magius' Shadow Ball and influences what the AI decides to do. By making sure I guarantee Haunter coming out, I can now PP stall. I switch between Abra and Baniri to PP stall Haunter out of Shadow Claw. Then I sacrifice Wurmple to get a free switch to Lumberry Ghastly. I had to sacrifice a Pokemon because there's a chance Haunter can use Confuse Ray as I switch in, and then Confuse Ray again after the first Confuse Ray uses up the Lum. Because Wurmple didn't get unlucky, I was able to String Shot Haunter before fainting and I don't even need the Lumberry. I switch between Baniri and Bronzor to stall out the Miss Magius for our third gym badge. We have another rival fight now, but it's trivial. Geodude beats Staravia and basic type advantages let us beat the remaining Pokemon. Then we catch a Duskull in Lost Tower, and now we can catch a Hoothoot in the night of Route 210, but I was lazy and decided to do it later. I then missed a Lickitung catch because I accidentally ran out of Pokeballs, but I don't really care too much. We get the Porygon in Veilstone City, but more importantly, we get an incredibly important item, the Sticky Barb, something that you don't usually see too often but will become an important part of our strategies going forward. In Route 214, we used Taunt Bidoof to catch Roar Houndour, and we now head to Maylene's Fighting-type gym, which has a very threatening Pokemon. Lucario. We knock out Meditite with Shadow Ball and we use the edging technique to level up mid-battle. By doing this, we now have exactly enough speed to outspeed Machoke, even if it drops our speed with Rock Tomb. Next is Lucario, and we have to use a Sticky Barb strategy for the first time. We pivoted in Bronzor on Metal Claw, and then Sticky Barb Zubat on Force Palm. The way Sticky Barb works is that it causes damage per turn to the holder of the item. However, if a Pokemon without a held item, in this case Lucario, makes a contact move with the Sticky Barb holder, the Sticky Barb moves over to them, causing damage every turn to them. Slowly but surely we can stall Lucario out of HP. But the challenge isn't using Sticky Barb, that's easy. The challenge is getting it back. When you give a Sticky Barb to an opponent and the battle ends, that item is gone forever. Sticky Barb is a good strategy and we want to use it later in the run too, so we need to get it back. We continue stalling, but once Lucario gets low enough in health, we go to 1 HP Magikarp to sacrifice it. 1 HP is to make sure that Lucario doesn't gain much health if it uses Drain Punch. Finally, we use Quick Attack Eevee to finish off Lucario, but more importantly, we get the Sticky Barb back because we made a contact move and Eevee wasn't holding an item. Not bad, and we get the 4th gym badge. I skip around a little for encounters and get Buizel in Route 212, Wingull in Route 213, and Wooper in the Great Marsh. Luckily, Wooper has Water Absorb, which makes it a usable Pokemon. We have an easy enough rival fight, and we also get the TM for Trick Room. Trick Room is another important strategy because it lets us mitigate the issue of speed. As we go further and further, more Pokemon will outspeed our team, and Trick Room is a useful tactic to combat that. Next up is Crasher Wake and his Water-type gym. Floatzel is a major threat because it's fast and can 2-hit KO most of my team. I use a TM to teach Ghastly Thunderbolt and I 1-hit KO the lead Gyarados. Floatzel comes in next and I have to sacrifice a Pokemon and I lose Piplup. Piplup's most useful moment lets me bring in Bronzor, who never faints to a critical hit from Floatzel. I use Trick Room and then switch out to sacrifice Wingull. Ghastly comes back, and with support from Trick Room, it's able to outspeed and 1-hit KO the Floatzel with Thunderbolt. Badoo finishes off Quagsire and we get the 5th gym badge. Now we head to Celestic Town and can get an important item, the Choice Specs. Similar to Trick Room, Choice Specs is a great way of leveling the playing field against Pokemon that are much stronger than ours. Celestic Town Cyrus is handled with Trick Room strategies, and Lumberry Bronzor can set up a Trick Room with its high natural bulk. Machop beats Sneasel, and Geodude beats Golbat and Murkrow for an easy boss fight. We now have Surf 2 and get Tentacool in Route 219 and Magnemite in the Fugo Ironworks. The Canalave rival fight is easy because the rival hasn't taught his Pokemon good moves yet. Shockwave Magnemite beats Double Team Staraptor because it doesn't have close combat yet, and Ponyta beats Torterra because it doesn't have Earthquake yet. Floatzel can be a little annoying, but Magnemite deals with it effectively. Heracross is the last Pokemon, and it outspeeds the entire team. We use the Sticky Barb strategy again and switch between Duskull and Onix. At the end, we use Shadow Sneak Duskull to regain the Sticky Barb before it gets lost forever, and we easily win the battle. Up next is a Canalave Gym, who's pretty easy too. Choice Specs Flamethrower Ponyta knocks out Magneton and Steelix in one shot, and Bastiodon is merely annoying. The main idea is to PP stall Metal Burst. Never underestimate Metal Burst. Bastiodon is well known for ending Nuzlocke because you think you can KO it, but all you do is end up just getting hit by a Metal Burst instead. Once Metal Burst is out of PP, we spam Earthquake with Geodude and we get our 6th gym badge. There's some Team Galactic stuff before the 7th gym that we have to deal with, and we use Trick Room strategies versus Saturn and beat Golbat with Magnemite and Toxicroak with Psychic Ghastly. Similarly, Mars is no big deal and we use Lumberry Pokemon to protect against Hypnosis Purugly. We catch a Snover, and then before the Ice-type gym, we head back to catch Hoot Hoot, who will be an important part of the strategy for the gym. In the 7th gym, I lead with Magnemite who beats Sneasel. I couldn't lead with Houndour because it would die to a critical hit Slash. Piloswine comes in next and I have to sacrifice Psyduck. That gives me a chance to go to Choice Specs Houndour. Houndour easily 1-hit KOs both Piloswine and Abomasnow before bringing in Frostlass. It has Snow Cloak, which can dodge attacks and can 1-hit KO me with a critical hit Blizzard. Instead, I sacrifice Starly as it gets up some double teams. Then I go to Bronzor and use Trick Room. Frostlass will never use Blizzard to KO me here. Even if Shadow Ball gets a critical hit, because I have Citrus Berry, I'll never be in range of dying to Blizzard, so the AI will never want to use it. I switch in Hoot Hoot without getting hit by Blizzard and use Foresight before fainting. The way Foresight works is that it negates all evasion like Snowcloak and Double Team even after the user faints. Houndour comes back in, and with the support of Trick Room and Foresight, it knocks out the Frostlass for our 7th gym badge. There are a lot of Team Galactic fights in the Spear Pillar arc, but most of them are not particularly difficult. The only tough fight is the last fight in the Distortion world, where Cyrus comes through with a team of powerful, fully evolved Pokemon. The lead Houndoom is threatening, so I lead with a pre-damaged Houndour. That way Houndoom will always use Thunderfang because it thinks it can one-hit KO me. I switch to Sticky Barb Magnemite to give Houndoom the Sticky Barb. I stall out a few turns and then sacrifice my own Houndour. Now there's enough damage for Buizel to come in with Aqua Jet and KO and get the Sticky Barb back. Gyarados comes in next and will try to knock out Buizel with either Earthquake or Giga Impact. That means I have a safe switch into Ghastly. Ghastly outspeeds and one-hit KOs with Choice Specs Thunderbolt. Weavile comes in next and I sacrifice my Buizel. Weasel can't take that Sticky Barb because it has a Citrus Berry. I go to Bronzor and use Trick Room, and Bronzor will never feint to even a critical hit Night Slash. Weavile will Night Slash again and I go to Machop. With Trick Room, Machop outspeeds and knocks out Weavile with no Guard Dynamic Punch. Crobat, the last Pokemon, comes in, but no Guard makes the win guaranteed now. Rock Climb Machop will always hit, and similarly Machop will never dodge Crobat's Air Slash. That means we get a little damage on Crobat and no Trick Room turns can ever get wasted. With the damage from Rock Climb and the support of Trick Room, Choice Specs Ghastly is able to KO the Crobat and we beat the strongest boss fight of the game. Then, we use Smoke Ball Ghastly to run away from this weird Pokemon that I don't know too much about. It looks bad anyway, so I don't really care. We now have the 8th gym badge, who is probably the easiest gym fight of them all. We lead with Yawn Wooper and switch to Bronzor as Jolteon falls asleep. Bronzor sets up Stealth Rock and then sets up Trick Room. Geodude does a free switch into Jolteon, and with Trick Room, Soft Sand, and Stealth Rock, Geodude cleans up the gym with Earthquake, giving us our 8th and final gym badge. Finally, we can catch Mantike, a powerful Water-type Pokemon and a definite Elite Four member. Also, we have the first tough rival fight. His Pokemon are now fully evolved and have good movesets. We lead with Ghastly to outspeed and KO Staraptor with our level advantage. Torterra comes in next and I sacrifice Budew. This lets me go to Snover, who beats Torterra with its Ice typing. I sacrifice Snover to Heracross and then bring in Ghastly. Ghastly knocks out Heracross and that brings in Floatzel. However, my Ghastly is pre-damaged. The AI prefers to use priority moves if it can. Because I'm at a low enough health for Aqua Jet to KO me, Floatzel will always use it. This gives me a free switch into Water Absorb Wooper. Wooper can use Yawn and then beat Floatzel one-on-one. If Wooper got crit, it's not a big deal because a sleeping Floatzel is very easy to beat. Snorlax comes in and I sacrifice Wooper before going to Eevee. Eevee has Protect Last Resort and that does just enough damage to Snorlax before fainting. Ponyta finishes off the Snorlax and all that's left is the rival's Rapidash. However, the Rapidash's fire moves are blocked by Flash Fire and I have Protect to stop Bounce. I can slowly chip down the Rapidash until it faints because there's no way it can touch me. Now, finally, we are ready for the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member is a Bug-type trainer who is a playground for Choice Specs Ponyta. Ponyta knocks out the first 4 Pokemon and brings out the only threat, Drapion. I switch to Bronzor and then this time I use Trick Sticky Barb because Drapion has a Citrus Berry. I slowly whittle it down and then finally switch to Baniri before Drapion faints. His Drapion doesn't have Sniper, which means Baniri always lives a critical hit. Baniri finishes off Drapion with a quick attack, letting us beat the first Elite Four member and also letting us get the Sticky Barb back. Next up is Bertha and her ground types. We lead with Choice Specs Giga Drain Ghastly to one-hit KO the Whiscash. This brings in Hippowdon, who will try to use Crunch. We switch to Bronzor and give Hippowdon the Sticky Barb. We stall it out, but we time our switch to Mantike right before the Hippowdon is going to use Full Restore. As Hippowdon uses full restore, we use agility with our Mystic Water Man-type. With Surf and Ice Beam, we run through the rest of the team to beat the second Elite Four member. We finally have to part ways with Sticky Bar, but we don't need it anymore. Next is the Fire-type Elite Four member, and ideally I would use the same Rain Dance strategy. However, Flint leads with a very dangerous Houndoom. Houndoom is faster than Man-type and can Dark Pulse flinch me. If Houndoom flinches me, the run is over. I need a way to paralyze Houndoom first. Unfortunately, there is a Thunder Wave TM, but it's only available in the postgame. That's why I did some secret preparations before heading to the Elite Four. There's a 5% chance for Wild Pikachu to hold a Light Ball. I can get that Light Ball using Thief. I lead with Baniri, who does outspeed Houndoom. Then, I use the move Fling, which flings the held item of the Pokemon at the opponent. Baniri is holding the Light Ball, and a flung Light Ball has a very convenient secondary effect. We sacrifice Baniri and bring in Mantike. Mantike sets up a Rain Dance and nothing can stop it. It cleans up every Pokemon except the last one, Rapidash. However, similar to the rival's Rapidash, it is completely walled by Ponyta, and we beat the third Elite Four member. Versus Lucian, the Psychic-type Elite Four member, I lead with Dread Plate Geodude. Geodude is actually strong enough to one-hit KO the Mr. Mime with Sucker Punch, as Mr. Mime goes for the KO with Psychic. This baits in Bronzong, and we have to go for a true PP stall with our Bronzor. We bring Psychic, Imprison Bronzor. Imprison blocks the opponent from using a move if we also have that move. In this case, Bronzong Psychic gets blocked. Even though Bronzong can Calm Mind to max, its only attacking moves are now Gyro Ball and Earthquake. Before the fight, we use the Light Screen TM on Bronzor, that way Bronzor has a high PP move to waste time with. Eventually, Bronzong starts to use Struggle, and we have to time our next strategy perfectly. We have to time using Trick Room such that we switch in Ghastly in on Bronzong as it feints to struggle, and there should be exactly 2 turns of Trick Room left. With Choice Specs, Shadow Ball, and Trick Room, Ghastly can outspeed and one-hit KO Alakazam and Espeon. Now, Trick Room runs out as he goes to Gallade. But, Ghastly actually outspeeds Gallade normally. With Trick Room gone, we outspeed Gallade and KO it with a Shadow Ball for our last Elite Four win. We're now ready for the champion. Versus Cynthia, I started with a Choice Specs Mantike. Mantike can 2-hit KO Spiritomb and doesn't risk a crit itself because it has a naturally high special defense. After Spiritomb faints, it brings in Togekiss with Shockwave. I use this as a chance to switch into Bronzor. This baits an Aura Sphere and I go to Ghastly. I use Curse and let Ghastly faint. I switch around with Mantike and Geodude and go to Bronzor as they go for a full restore. I stall out a turn with Protect and then use Lumberry Rest just in case I get critical hit, which does end up happening. Now I time my Trick Room just as Togekiss dies, which baits in Flamethrower Garchomp. This gives me a free switch into my Choice Specs Mantike. Mantike one-hit KOs the Garchomp with Choice Specs Ice Beam in Trick Room. This baits in Lucario, who will either use Stone Edge or Extreme Speed. Either way, it lets me go to Geodude. Geodude with Soft Sand outspeeds because of Trick Room and one-hit KOs the Lucario. Roserade comes in now and I sacrifice Ponyta to the fast and strong Roserade. After the death of Ponyta, I go to Bronzor and use Trick Room. Then I use Psychic to get a little bit of damage on Roserade. Afterwards, I sacrifice Mantike. If Bronzor had gotten crit versus Roserade, it wouldn't have made a big difference. I would just sacrifice Bronzor instead of Mantike. Geodude comes in next, and with the earlier damage from Psychic, Geodude can KO the Roserade with Earthquake. Milotic is the last Pokemon, and with Trick Room, we use Explosion for one final attack to one-hit KO the Milotic. We beat the champion with one Pokemon left, the Bronzor who carried the entire run. Thank you guys for watching. It's always fun to make Nuzlocke content. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite strategy was. Mine was the Fling Light Ball Baniri, and I actually knew about the technique because I'd used it before in competitive play. Also, if you've made it this far, consider subscribing. It helps out the channel and you won't miss the next video. Thank you for watching. I had a really good time.